way.
Ever try to hold back your feelings? But it just wouldn't say. But when I finally found the words to say.
Hey everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a watch me work, and I am starting off with Dynamic Black by iGel Beauty, and I'm going to be doing 2 coats on each pinky finger and curing for 60 seconds between each layer. We decided to do her thumbs in a bright red, so I'm using Lucky Red by D&D. I'm doing 2 thin coats and curing each layer for 60 seconds. I just wanted to jump in here really quick to thank you all for watching. Thank you so much for being here. To my new subscribers, I see you. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. And if you're here watching and you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and your notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. I am planning to be more consistent starting right now. So I appreciate you all for continuing to be patient with me and for showing me your love and support. It does not go unnoticed, and I am so grateful for each and every one of you. So her ring fingers are going to be a black V-cut French, and I am going in with D&D's So Damn Fly. This is one of my most recent favorite base colors, and typically I select my bases for Frenchies based off of my client's complexion. Sometimes I'll choose more of a nude base, and sometimes I'll go more pink depending on their skin tone. This particular base works well across the board for all complexions and skin tones. The whole D&D sheer line actually works really well. They have a large range and selection of colors, perfect for your Frenchies. So I'm going to do 2 thin layers and cure each layer for 60 seconds. For her middle and index fingers, I'm going to be doing an ombre effect with clear tips. So this is just some rubbing alcohol, a lint-free wipe, and my fluffy eyeshadow brush. I'm going to start by putting down a thin layer of my base color, and taking the rubbing alcohol on the lint-free wipe and just slightly dampening my eyeshadow brush. I don't want to saturate my brush because I don't want to make my gel polish too watery. I just want to slightly dampen it so that I can feather that color out. I'm going to do 2 very thin layers, curing each layer for 60 seconds once I'm happy with the way my gel polish fades out. I'm going to repeat the same process on her middle fingers, except this time I'm going in with black and I'm coming in at an angle. Once I'm happy with the feathering of the gel polish, I'm going to cure each layer for 60 seconds. I'm going to place a little bit of the dynamic black onto my palette for the V-cut French nails, and I'm actually going to fill these in with the liner brush for a couple reasons. Her nail beds are really small, so I don't have a whole lot of space to just use the brush from the bottle. And black can be tricky. If your black is too thick, it will wrinkle on you. So using the liner brush gives me a bit more control with the amount of product that I'm going to be using, and I can prevent that wrinkling from happening. So I'm going to do 2 very thin layers of black using my liner brush to create this V-cut French, and I'm curing each layer for 60 seconds. Once this layer is cured, I will be doing the second layer off camera. For the encapsulation, I will be using these red holographic hearts as well as these solid black hearts. I'm going to place a small dot of gel base coat onto my palette, and this will help me pick up the hearts one by one with my dotting tool. Using my dotting tool with base coat is a whole lot easier than trying to use tweezers or a wax pen. I literally just dip my dotting tool into the base coat, pick up the heart, and put it where it needs to go. So I like to think of encapsulation kind of like a sandwich. You have your bread, you have your meat, and then you have your second slice of bread. So what I'm going to do is put down a very thin layer of my base coat, and let's think of that as our first piece of bread. I'm going to take my hearts and press them down into that first layer of wet base coat. And making sure that you add enough pressure to actually press them down is super important, because you don't want to have any edges sticking out because they're harder to cover and get smooth. So I am being very mindful that I am pressing them down into that wet base coat and kind of angling the finger just so I can see that they're all laying flat before I cure. Once I'm happy and they're laying relatively flat, I'm going to go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. I'm going to repeat the same process on her index fingers, except I'm focusing the hearts more toward the middle of the nail, and I am using red and black. Once I'm happy with the placement of my hearts, being sure to press them down into that thin layer of base coat, I'm going to go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. Now that our hearts have been cured into place, we are going in with that second piece of bread for our sandwich, and this is our second layer of base coat. You want to be a lot more generous with the second layer of base coat than you were with the initial layer so that you can have a smooth finish. There is nothing worse than a bumpy encapsulation. The first layer of base coat was literally to give the hearts something to stick to hold them to the nail. This second layer is super important to achieve a smooth finish. I like to turn my brush in the opposite direction to ensure that I'm filling any gaps and covering any edges that may not have cured completely flat. Because we are going in so much heavier with the base coat for the second layer, you want to be sure that you are wiping the edges of the nail so that you don't lose your shape. You don't want the base coat to pull to the sides and your nails to look wide. So just take your finger and run it along the edge before you cure for 60 seconds. Once your second layer of base coat has been fully cured, you can absolutely stop right there. But because we used so many of those hearts and some are on top of one another, I'm going in with a very thin layer of brush on builder, just for a little extra insurance. I typically don't need to do this step when I'm just doing like a very thin layer of hearts or a trail of hearts where they're not on top of one another. The base coat is plenty, but because I used so many hearts and they are clumped together, some are on top of each other, just again for that smooth finish, I am going to do a very thin layer of builder and curing that for 60 seconds. Now that our builder gel has been completely cured, I'm going in with some alcohol and a lint-free wipe just to remove the tacky layer from the nails I plan to add some stickers to. I have some really pretty hearts and these really cute like lips that I want to add. So removing that tacky layer will help with the adhesion of the stickers and keep them laying flat and in place. These stickers I got from Amazon and Shein. I won't be able to link them below because I've had them for so long, but I'm just going to pick a few of these to add to her V-cut French nails and her index fingers. And when you're adding stickers to nails, once you get that tacky layer off, you still want to make sure that you're applying a bit of pressure just to get them to lay completely smooth and rub out any wrinkles that may have occurred. Luckily with these stickers, they are pretty thin, so I don't have too much of an issue with them, but I do just apply a little bit of added pressure all over the sticker for good measure. I'm going to be adding some red bling to her ring fingers using my Macart rhinestone glue. And if you've been following me for a while, then you know I like to lay my rhinestones out in advance just to save on time so that I'm not trying to figure out placement with my client. I already have that ready to go. Doing this has been a lifesaver for me. Once I am happy with the placement of my bling, everything is lined up straight, I am going to flash cure before I have her place her hand into my actual UV lamp, because these stones are a little bit bigger, and like I said before, her nail beds are kind of small. I don't want to risk these rhinestones sliding around before we cure them into place. So once I'm happy, I'm going to go ahead and flash cure, and then she'll be placing her hand in the lamp for 60 seconds. Once her rhinestones have been fully cured into place with the full-size lamp, I like to go in with my Macart Precision Glue just to trace around the edges to fill in any gaps so that they don't catch on anything. Typically, my clients come back with all their stones, and I think that's because I go in with some reinforcement. I really like to do this with bigger stones just because it helps them stay in place a lot better. I am going to be writing on her index fingers with my Young Nails art pen, so I need to put down a thin layer of matte top coat and cure that for 60 seconds. Even though I used a no wipe matte top coat for these index nails, I'm still going to use a lint-free wipe and rubbing alcohol just to wipe away any type of residue that may have been left behind after curing. And once that's dry, I am writing XOXO on one nail and the word love in cursive on the other nail. I believe these air dry, but just because we went ahead and cured for 30 seconds, I don't think it was necessary, but we did it anyway, okay? I know. For her pinky nails, they will be essentially matte, but when I use matte on a dark color, I like to put down a glossy no wipe top coat first because it provides a more smooth base for my matte. Matte top coat shows up every bump, lump, and imperfection. She is a petty girl and she will humble you real quick. So when I'm using matte on darker nails, I like to use a glossy top coat first, and I feel like it helps the matte last a lot better. So I'm going in with a glossy top coat on every nail except her index finger and curing for 60 seconds. Now that our glossy no wipe top coat has been fully cured, I'm going in with the matte no wipe top coat on her pinky and index fingers, being sure to completely cover the nails. With this black nail, if I were to miss a spot of matte, the shiny nail would be showing, so you want to be very mindful that you are fully covering those nails. I'm using the matte on her index finger to protect that art pen that we use to write on her nail with. Once I'm happy, I'm going to go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me and my channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments down below if there's anything you want to see or anything you'd like me to show you. I love to share my knowledge, anything that I know. I am willing to, share those things and help wherever I can. Again, I love you all so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Before the double R